Welcome to Unplugged, a show created by two college seniors who aspire to have a career in the television industry. Kelly and Kaylee have a passion for sharing the stories and experiences of successful women in various media fields.
And that's exactly what this show is all about. Sit back and grab your favorite cup of coffee as we cover a Q&A and debunk misconceptions.
Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. My name is Stephanie Wagner. I'm the founder and operator of Country Swag. Country Swag is a special events, promotions, and country music media outlet based in New York City.
What made you want to go into the live entertainment and promotions industry?
So I grew up working in the hospitality field, so I've always had a love and passion for special events and people and just like doing things like that. At the same time, I loved live music, all different kinds of music. I grew up listening to R&B and pop, and then had an EDM phase. And once I finally discovered country music, I kind of realized that there was a way to bring my worlds together, and here we are.
Can you go into a little bit about why and how you started Country Swag? I feel like a lot of people are interested in starting their own companies or businesses, but it's very daunting, starting something from scratch. So can you just kind of go into that process a little bit?
Definitely. So I started Country Swag. I didn't grow up listening to country music. I grew up in New York City, and we didn't have a country music radio station here. So it wasn't very prevalent in my life. As I got older and I started kind of discovering the genre and the music and going to shows, I realized how popular it was in New York City and that nobody was really kind of covering that for us. So I kind of had the idea that I could be that person for country music fans in the area to be like, okay, here's a show, come see this artist, and here's a new artist you should be listening to. And that's kind of where the idea stemmed from. It obviously grew a lot since that and from that. But the idea kind of grew out of something that wasn't here that I wanted to bring here.
So kind of going off of that, when you think of country music, you don't automatically think of New York City. New York City is typically home to a lot of other genres of music. So how difficult is it at all to set up these interviews and events with country artists?
That's the funny thing. It actually, you would think that it would be harder, and I get this question a lot. People are always asking me why I don't do this in Nashville or why I'm not there. To be honest, a lot of the big media outlets are here. When you have the Today Show and Good Morning America and the Spotify offices and Facebook and everything else, you're constantly having artists travel through the New York area. And being that we are one of the only country music outlets in the city, we kind of became a stop on their little like tour media run through the city. So it actually works out. I think it works out a little bit better for us because I think we have that advantage of being one of the only media outlets here, and we do have a huge fan base here. And I actually think it's a little bit easier than most people would think.
And obviously your company revolves around people being together and live events. So as we know, I'm sure that changed a lot during COVID. So how were you able to keep your business going through that time?
Ooh. COVID was definitely very hard for many people, obviously. For us, we had to pivot a lot on what we were doing because we were so based on our own special events and promoting events coming through the city. So there weren't any concerts, we weren't doing our own events, and it kind of put a turn on everything we were doing. At the same time, a lot of my best friends are firefighters and police officers and doctors and nurses, so they were on the front lines in New York City, which was also hard because I almost felt a little guilty that there was something that I couldn't do to help when my friends were out there, working 30 hours a day. So one of the things we did right off the bat was we created a t-shirt. Merchandise was something that we could do. So we created a t-shirt called Kindness Isn't Canceled, and we partnered with Walker Hayes, who is one of my favorite country music artists, and the local radio station, and we raised funds for frontline workers through the purchase of those t-shirts. And we fed the frontline workers. We dropped meals off at firehouses and hospitals and police stations, and we were able to get involved in that sense. So that is always something that I'll be very proud of when I think back to COVID. And then working from that, we just kind of continued to focus on merchandise. We continued to focus on promoting music and new artists and doing what we could with that time. So it was definitely a challenging time, but I think it was interesting the way that we handled it, and we're grateful to kind of be on the other side of it.
Definitely. And now looking at your career specifically, what's been the most challenging part for you during your career?
I think the most challenging part, and probably I would think that most business owners would say this, is just the uncertainty. I walked away from a full-time job to start a business in New York City, and I did it in an industry that I really didn't know, I didn't have experience in. So looking back, I think that was probably one of the craziest things I could have ever done, but it never felt wrong to me. I think it's important to follow your passion and just believe that where you are is where you're meant to be, and through the ups and the downs, you kind of have to work through that. Yeah, I think that's a challenge for anyone, but it will always be something that I'm proud of, is just each and every day that I get to do this. So.
Now, just going back a little bit, you mentioned that you left a full-time job to start this career in an industry that you didn't really have experience in. So was there a turning point for you where you realized that, hey, this passion that I have could turn into a job?
Absolutely. So I worked in hospitality. I was doing special events for a hospitality group in New York City. And one of the events that I started doing was a country night. Kind of stemming from the original idea of Country Swag. I was a country music fan in New York City. I knew that I could bring fans together and do these sort of events. So I did it in partnership with my full-time job in my hospitality group. And once we did our first event, I realized how popular it was and that there was an audience here, and it was something that wasn't being catered to. And I just kind of took a leap of faith and knew that there was something that I could make a business out of in that aspect. So, yeah.
And what's the biggest lesson that you've learned throughout your career?
Ooh, the biggest lesson. I guess the biggest lesson would just be that even when you're down, to get back up, every day is always going to be a different story. And I think that when you're doing something that you truly love and you know that it's helping other people and that you have an audience for it and people believe in what you do, through every hardship, you can work through it. So I think that that's probably most important.
And lastly, what's your biggest piece of advice for people looking to get into the same industry as you?
My biggest piece of advice is just start where you can to get your foot in the door, even if it's an internship or a few hours a week or whatever it is. I think this industry is a lot about networking and who you know and what you can do. And I think just being able to make those connections and kind of make a name for yourself is important. So don't be afraid to start small, even if it's even lower than where you are in a different industry. If this is an industry you want to be a part of, don't be afraid to get dirty.
Okay, so now I'm going to hand you a stack of misconceptions.
Okay. The main part of your job is to attend concerts. I wish. It's definitely the fun part of the job, but not the main part. Actually, the main part is a lot of like computer work and back-end stuff, setting up interviews and events and adding things to the website and editing, and it's a lot less fun than it seems. But I'm definitely grateful for the concerts part. That makes it worth it. You have to be in the South to promote country music. You would think, but no. It actually works out really well being in New York and being the only one here promoting it. We have a huge country fan base here. It's actually one of the largest markets for country music in the country. So it helps to have an outlet here for artists to kind of connect with us and connect to our followers and our audience. So being in New York, I think, is actually an advantage. And it's really cool to see so many fans here. You have to graduate with a degree in music to run a successful promotional music company. No. Might help, but I didn't. I think this industry is based off a lot of experience, and things are changing every single day. So it's more of kind of going with the flow and figuring things out, and how to help new artists get music out there, how to help fans discover new artists. And I think it's more just about being human and learning as you go and making those relationships and partnerships with people. So yeah, I don't think you have to go to college for it. I'm Stephanie Wagner from Country Swag, and those are my misconceptions on country music entertainment.
Thank you for watching this episode of Unplugged. We hope you enjoyed watching and finished your coffee along the way. We'll catch you
in our next episode.